a morning that began just like any other. As we set forth on this journey, I feel compelled to warn you that the narrative that lies ahead explores themes of a more mature nature. The narrative reveals the challenges of new motherhood and the intricate dynamics of family life. The bonds and the darkness woven by betrayal. If these themes evoke a certain comfort within, it might be prudent to look away at this moment. Leora Bennett, a name that bears the burden of 42 years of existence and, at first glance, my life may appear unconventional, a tapestry intricately woven with threads of the unexpectedly, yet deep within my journey, I have learned to embrace it, accepting each twist and turn for the. It is a unique tale that unfolds, one that would have seemed improbable if someone had whispered to me a decade ago that my life would veer in such an unexpected direction. I would have laughed heartily, dismissing it as a ludicrous tale. Never in my wildest dreams, I could never have imagined this moment. Yet here I am, perched at the kitchen table on a tranquil morning. My thoughts drift as I peer into the depths of a half-empty cup of coffee, immersing myself in contemplation. In the intricate tapestry woven over the past decade, I embark on an unyielding journey for clarity, navigating through the tumultuous disorder. In the tapestry of events that have unfolded, each moment emerges as a fragment of a larger puzzle, elusive and challenging to grasp. Yet, I am resolute in my quest to unveil the concealed truths that have remained shrouded for the past 8 years, a journey that has been solely shared between my son and me. Kai and I have been navigating the world together since the divorce, forging our path as we battle against the challenges that life presents. It appears resolute in its mission to hold us back. It all began with a singular moment that fractured our reality, the day his father chose to leave, leaving a void that echoed through the silence of their home. At just 10 years old, Kai stood on the precipice of a world brimming with untold adventures. He stood there, his eyes betraying nothing. With a stoic mask firmly in place, not a single tear fell before me, as it never had. It was through the subtlety of his movements that I could perceive the truth. His quiet, longing gaze drifted outward. Window, a silent vigil for a father who would never return. Deep down, he grasped the truth as he stood in anticipation each day, while I observed the burden of disappointment slowly carve itself upon his face as he awaited the return of his father, a flicker of hope. As the moments slipped away on that fateful day when my father departed, I made a solemn promise to myself that everything would transform. In that instant, a fierce determination ignited within me, a vow that I would move mountains to ensure Kai would never experience the sharp bite of loneliness. I would stand as the steadfast anchor in his existence, ensuring he felt the warm embrace of family, even if it was merely the two of us standing together against the world. Promise has become the foundation of my being, the steadfast energy that drives me onward, even in the face of darkness. Looming despair threatens to engulf me, yet, despite the fraught journey filled with challenges, I have fought to forge a refuge for him, where I pour every ounce of love and steadfast support into our connection, standing resilient against any challenge that may arise. He approached me, his expression grave and unyielding. The storms that life may unleash upon us, for what felt like an eternity, I was convinced Kai possessed an extraordinary ability to maintain order. He was a remarkable child, gentle and unassuming in his demeanor, perpetually on the lookout for chances to assist within the home. He embodied a serene kindness, an essence that distinguished him, distinct from the other children, drawing attention like a beacon in the night. Yet, as the years unfolded, a transformation emerged. As it began to unfold, he started to transform in ways that escaped my comprehension, and if I'm being completely honest, I could sense the stirrings of change within myself coincided with Kai reaching the age of 18 this year, a momentous occasion that resonated deeply. He stands on the precipice of adulthood, a young man grappling with the weight of his own existence, deeply aware of the implications for both of us. In the stillness of my thoughts, I find myself pondering whether he continues to seek the very essence of what it means to embody manhood. The transition is far from clear-cut, and I can feel the inner conflict within him as he wrestles with it from a young age. He exuded a sense of quietude, a delicate enigma that distinguished him from those around him. He felt no inclination to be enveloped by the company of others. Unlike other kids, he never yearned for the raucous, frenzied exchanges that enthralled most of his peers. He seldom ventured outside. In the quietude of his refuge, he discovers a sense of peace, yet he is devoid of the close companionship one might expect from a young man. Each time I approach him, a knot tightens in my stomach. I search for the right words, hoping to unveil the truth, Behind his distant gaze lies a profound loneliness, adrift in a world that feels overwhelmingly heavy. Yet, each attempt to connect is met with an indifferent shrug, his laid-back, "I'm fine," lingering in the atmosphere like a ghostly resonance, leaving me with a greater sense of worry than I had before, yet I grasp his essence more profoundly than he might comprehend. I can feel that he is far from. A mother holds an innate understanding, a steadfast conviction that remains steadfast despite her child's efforts to sway her with words of uncertainty. About a month ago, Kai came to me with a revelation that caught me entirely off guard, a truth I was wholly unprepared to face. The evening had descended into a quiet serenity surrounds us, the two of us wrapped in the soft illumination of the living room. In that room, without a hint of forewarning, he started to unveil himself in a manner that left me utterly captivated. To my utter astonishment, he revealed to me, his voice quivering, that he had been taking my personal belongings without. Initially, a haze of confusion surrounded me, enveloping my thoughts as I struggled to grasp his words. My mind raced, unable to decipher the meaning behind them. In that moment, as the realization washed over me as the weight of his words settled in, it felt as though the very earth beneath my feet had shifted, vanished into thin air. A surge of frustration welled up inside me, igniting a desperate urge to scream, to confront him, and untangle the convoluted thoughts that had convinced him that this was permissible. However, I opted not to. Instead, the dialogue veered into uncharted territory, stood frozen in place, a mere observer in the unfolding drama of my existence, my gaze fixed intently upon him. In that fleeting moment, he seemed diminutive, engulfed by a profound sense of shame and an overwhelming weight of emotion. The weight of embarrassment enveloped him as his gaze dropped to the ground, intentionally avoiding mine. His shoulders slumped in a way that awakened a profound yearning within me. The boy who had once brimmed with enthusiasm to help, with a soft compassion, now lingered in quietude, burdened by an invisible weight that slipped through my grasp of comprehension. And in a fleeting moment, a revelation struck me with the force of a thunderclap. This was far more than merely the sum of his. It surpassed the simple acts, the raw shock, or the bubbling fury that may have surged within me. It was a deep truth, an unvoiced burden that bore down on him, a sensation that twirled just out of his grasp. Words remained a secret, a fear held tightly within. It was a tale intricately woven with threads of struggle, a maze of uncertainty, a whisper of solitude, and a specter of dread that hovered above him. And in that instant, I discovered myself seated next to him, wrestling with the uncertainty. Not only with the harsh truth of what had occurred, but also with the weighty, unexpressed emotions he carried, feelings that he lingered in the silence, waiting for a voice he had yet to discover. He was neither a pervert nor a monster. He was my son, and he was engaged in a struggle within, grappling with emotions that slipped through his fingers. He discovered himself at the mercy of uncontrollable urges. I found myself at a crossroads, torn in that moment. Amidst the heaviness of his sorrow and the weight of my own moral obligation, I realized that action was necessary to protect him from additional pain. In the depths of my anguish, I made a choice that would alter the course of my life. In that fleeting moment, I forged a pact with him, cautioning him that he could chase his desires, yet there would be boundaries he must honor. He could discover some solace, but it came with conditions. In that fleeting moment, as it unfolded right before my eyes, I realized I had to hold him close, protect him from the perils that hovered just outside the boundaries of his decisions. In exchange, I requested his respect. My privacy, when I had guests over, was something I valued, just as I respected his. Kai seems to have shed his tension, embracing a newfound ease. Calmness envelopes him as he remains silent, yet a transformation occurs. He no longer retreats into shyness, distanced from my presence as he once was. What of my existence? I've started to grasp that this arrangement carries weight. Beyond just him, it is intended for me as well. It bestows upon me the freedom I have yearned for, the freedom to fully embrace my. In the quiet of the night, I discover my existence, free from the perpetual need to navigate cautiously around him. Wide awake, I wrestle with the haunting question of whether I truly made the right choice. What would they say if should the truth be revealed? Would they deem me a dreadful mother, a total failure? Perhaps they would. Yet they have yet to comprehend the true essence of Kai. They remain unaware of the anguish of. He revealed his thoughts and feelings. Observing their child in anguish, powerless and yearning for relief, they stay unaware of the battle within. Grasping at the fragile threads of sanity, precariously balanced on the brink, fervently resisting the looming descent into chaos. The ambiguity of what lies ahead for us looms like a shadow, heavy and foreboding with uncertainty. Hovers above this arrangement, a delicate equilibrium poised on the brink, reminiscent of a ticking time bomb primed to detonate at any moment. At any moment, yet for now, this is the reality we dwell in, this is the journey we traverse. We've embraced, and in the midst of its chaos and complexity, I am channeling every ounce of. I have poured my effort into making it work for both of us. If you've journeyed this far, remember to give this video a thumbs up. We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more enchanting stories such as this one. Believe. A vast world of secrets awaits revelation. The deal unfolded in an unexpected manner, one I had not fully anticipated. The implications unfolded in an instant. One moment, I was sitting. There I was, grappling with the weight of what Kai had shared, and in the next moment, the words erupted from my lips as if they were driven by an uncontrollable force. I declared, "You may proceed with your plans, but there are certain matters I must address, required in exchange." His gaze pierced through me as if I had just uttered words from a distant realm, his face devoid of hue, his hands clenched into tight fists upon the kitchen table, a tempest swirling within him for a brief instant. I was certain he would stand and walk out the door. Perhaps I yearned for him to do so. Perhaps a part of me yearned for him to reject the notion of my thoughts as mere madness and exit the room in a tempest of anger, yet he opted for stillness, remaining frozen in place, his gaze fixed intently on. His lips parted and closed, ensnared in a quiet battle to discover the "What do you mean?" he finally asked, his voice trembling, barely above a whisper. Above a whisper, as if he feared the truth lurking in the shadows of the answer. I inhaled deeply, filling my lungs. In the gravity of this moment, "You may proceed, yet it must be in my company." In return, I took the opportunity to shape my life according to my own desires. I can welcome others into my home without your presence. With a single word unspoken, silence enveloped the space, creating a sanctuary untouched by scrutiny. In our exchange, we both depart with our desires fulfilled, the atmosphere thick with unspoken understanding. In an unsettling stillness that enveloped the air, as if the world itself was holding its breath, Kai remained silent. His thoughts swirled like a tempest within him, his gaze bore into me, brow deeply furrowed, lips drawn tight into a delicate boundary, his expression transformed as he wrestled with my words, the gravity of. As their meaning settled in, I sought clarity amidst the chaos of his thoughts, only to find myself ensnared in the same turmoil. The unyielding cycle hung in the atmosphere, the words suspended between us, and I understood. There was no path to reclaim them. I couldn't dispel the uncertainty that clung to my thoughts. At last, he offered seeking clarity amidst his turmoil and feelings. A gentle inclination, a nuanced gesture, barely noticeable yet rich with significance. "Okay," he whispered, his voice barely rising above the silence, almost lost in it. The atmosphere enveloping us, "If that is indeed your wish," marked the instant when everything transformed. That was the agreement. Enveloped in darkness, the moment unfolded. A surge of nausea swept through me, threatening to drag me beneath the surface. Seated at the brink of my bed, my heart pounding furiously, hands damp with perspiration, I persuaded myself that this was indeed what he genuinely required, that it was infinitely preferable to the shadowy alternative lurking in the shadows, that every decision I made was for his benefit, yet lurking beneath the surface a persistent whisper of certainty suggested that the truth was far more intricate than it appeared. Kai entered the room, his gaze remained steadfastly on the earth below, while a profound silence enveloped the space between us. An unspoken tension lingered between us, a barrier neither of us dared to breach, our eyes never truly meeting. Not in any meaningful way, I remained frozen in my seat, feigning indifference as if the chaos around me was merely a mere figment of imagination. Yet another ordinary day slipped through my fingers, and as it drew to a close, he walked away. Away departed in silence. Time seemed to stretch endlessly as I remained frozen in place, unable to stir. I sat there, my eyes locked on the wall, waging a war against the chaos inside me, striving to. I reassured myself that everything was fine, that this was truly acceptable. It's strange how swiftly one can acclimate to the most peculiar situations. At first, each instant felt like a harsh impact to the stomach, yet, as the days morphed into weeks, a gentle ease began to weave its way. Amidst the struggle, or perhaps through sheer determination, I mastered the craft of concealing the chaos within. I persuaded myself it was innocuous, simply an unorthodox decision. I persuaded myself that I was being sensible, that I was transforming a bleak situation. For a brief instant, I found myself persuaded that Kai could transform it into something manageable. He revealed a narrative uniquely his, donning a mask of courage, yet the reality, shame and guilt were etched in his eyes, a storm brewing within. Beneath the surface, he concealed it, buried deep within a silent torment that gnawed at his soul. I could sense the weight of his self-loathing, the desperate need for me that he could never articulate. Each time I glimpsed that expression on his face, my heart fractured a little more, yet what choice did I have? He was my son, the singular beacon of my existence. Abandoning him was simply out of the question. I found it unbearable to imagine him drowning under the burden of his own feelings while I stood by, just a passive observer. I revealed the insights I longed to possess at his age. As a spectator, determination surged through my veins as I donned my bravest mask in place. We ventured boldly into the unknown, driven by a shared purpose. This journey was for him, for me, for us. It was about more than just exploration. Restoring faith, respecting boundaries, where each pulse resonated with the weight of our intertwined fates gnaws at me, a relentless whisper of doubt. In the recesses of my thoughts, I find myself questioning each decision I've made. Most days, a veil of uncertainty shrouds my mind, guiding me toward. We ponder the essence of the right path, and yet here we find ourselves, navigating the complexities of our journey. In this ongoing exploration, therapy has illuminated our understanding, a healthier path forward. At first, it felt strikingly familiar. Kai held tightly to the routine, as if one could even venture to designate it as such at dawn, and from time to time, as dusk descends, it revealed itself. In unforeseen manners, it stayed accessible. I reassured myself that this was simply a transient instance that he would. Before long, I anticipated that my enthusiasm would wane, that the thrill would diminish as the charm faded, yet, I found myself mistaken in this belief. Then easing off, it surged forward with relentless intensity. At first, the morning crept forward gradually, yielding to the warm caress of the afternoon that gradually dissolved into the profound shadows of night, followed by the arrival of 2 new mornings, unfolded in succession as I watched the hours and days whirl swiftly around this intricate arrangement, each moments intertwining with one another in a dizzying dance. The air in the house hung thick with unspoken agreements. Leaving, we find ourselves with diminished intervals of normalcy, fewer instances when the burden of our choices did not weigh heavily upon us. I struggled to dismiss it, to bury it deep within the recesses of my thoughts, yet it clung to me, an ever-present specter in the corners of my mind. I stood there, hands buried in a pile of freshly laundered clothes, an unsettling feeling washing over me. As Kai entered the room, a silence crept over me for the first time, enveloping him completely. Like a shroud, his face bore the weight of tension, every muscle in his body coiled tight, radiating an unspoken urgency before he uttered a single word. I could sense his desire lurking in the shadows, palpable and undeniable. I set the clothes aside and perched on the edge of the couch, cradled me in a mix of anticipation and unease as I awaited his return, a disquieting shift hanging in the air. In the air, he did not simply walk away. When it all came to an end, he paused, caught in a moment of reflection, gazing at me with a blend of emotions I struggled to interpret, yet they remained tantalizingly elusive, a knot tightened within me. In my stomach, the gravity of the moment bore down on me like an unyielding stone. "Are you all right?" I inquired. My voice, barely above a whisper, revealed more vulnerability than I had intended. He nodded, yet the truth flickered in the air between us. In his eyes, a silent storm brewed beneath the surface. The weight of the moment had shifted, and it was no longer in the quest for solace. It transcended the boundaries of mere existence that night. A sleep that held deeper meaning eluded me. The ceiling loomed above, a blank canvas for the relentless replay. The importance of listening without prejudice. Of the day's events, each moment etched in vivid detail, haunting my thoughts. I attempted to quiet the uncertainty swirling within me, persuading myself that I was simply fabricating illusions. However, beneath the essence of a truth surged with unmistakable clarity. This had transcended mere phases. It was evolving into a troubling pattern that filled me with concern. The most difficult realization struck me. We required professional assistance to navigate this situation. As the days unfolded, Kai's emotional state began to mirror the mounting stress he was experiencing, and he discovered that concealing his emotions was no longer possible. It became evident that he required additional support, prompting us to seek assistance. Seeking therapy to navigate the strain in our relationship, as our initial understanding appears to have unraveled, leaving us utterly adrift and bewildered. Perhaps it truly was, hadn't I bestowed upon him the liberty to embark on this journey. It all commenced with an innocent blunder, a light-hearted quip that escaped my lips before the aroma of simmering spices enveloped the kitchen as I immersed myself in the dinner preparations, blissfully unaware of the moment that would alter the course of fate. He stepped through the doorway, and time appeared to stand still. A shiver coursed down my spine as I felt his gaze locked onto me with every movement I made. Under the weight of his watchful gaze, uncertainty beckons to me, relentless. Echoes in the recesses of my thoughts. I struggled to comprehend the motives that lay beneath my. Perhaps I sought to shatter the silence that lingered between us. Or maybe I was probing his limits, curious to uncover the extent to which he would test the limits in a fleeting moment of spontaneity. I let my jacket slip from my shoulders, permitting it to cascade onto the counter with a gentle thud. His breath caught in his throat as I pivoted to meet his gaze. A smile danced at the corners of my lips. "Is something amiss?" I asked, feigning ignorance to the way his cheeks flushed with color. In a stillness thick with color, silence enveloped the space, heavy and unyielding. As he stood resolute, unresponsive, he pivoted sharply, turning his back to the room as he strode out, leaving an atmosphere thick with unease lingered behind him, while the weight of his stare remained, haunting the space long after he had departed. Disappear from view. From that instant, it morphed into an exhilarating challenge. I would collect my hair, permitting it to cascade just so as my shirt flirtatiously rode up and my jeans hung loosely, suspended in a state of. With reckless abandon, there exists a subtle tension, nothing explicit, nothing overt, just an undercurrent that twisted in the air just enough to provoke a squirm, creating a fleeting pause before he averted his gaze for an instant. I experienced an unsettling sense of control over the circumstances, a feeling that quickly bred discomfort within me. Yet, as each day passed, the boundary that once defined us began to fade, intertwining our fates in ways we never. He began to seek my constant attention in ways that felt increasingly inappropriate, and I reciprocated. We discussed the importance of boundaries, the essence of respect, and the journey of growth. Murmured to myself that it was innocuous, that it bore no weight, yet profoundly. In the depths of my thoughts, I found myself adrift in a sea of uncertainty, grappling with the very essence of meaning. Doubt lingered, a persistent whisper in my mind, leaving me in a state of contemplation. Adrift in a sea of uncertainty, in the stillness of a late evening, a pivotal moment unfolded, bringing everything to a. In a moment of dramatic climax, Kai sat across from me in the dimly lit living room, his gaze piercing through the shadows. Fixed their gaze upon me as I lost myself in the pages of a book. The atmosphere around us thickened with unspoken concerns that needed to be confronted as I lifted my eyes to his. Our gaze locked in an unspoken connection, and for the first. In that moment, I maintained my unwavering gaze, resolute in my decision not to look away. He mirrored my determination, steadfast and unyielding. The silence hung heavily between us, thick and oppressive, until I found the courage to clear my throat and stand. To my feet. "I'm going to bed," I murmured, my voice barely rising above a whisper as if the shadows themselves might overhear. He nodded, yet I sensed his gaze piercing through me as I turned to face him. Uncertainty loomed over us, a heavy fog that obscured the path we had taken. How had we arrived at this moment, standing on the precipice of the unknown? How did I allow it to spiral out of control? We find ourselves ensnared in a relentless cycle, grappling for control, yet here we stand, searching for the way out. Enveloped in ambiguity, even as I fervently strive to maintain a semblance of order, an unsettling truth emerges. Gnaws at me. I fear I have already surrendered it all. Everything began to unravel the moment Thane Mercer stepped into our lives. It was a chance encounter, a fleeting moment orchestrated by our mutual friend, one of those seemingly inconsequential introductions that hover in the depths of recollection, poised for the perfect instant to unveil their importance. Yet Ezra was not a man easily forgotten. He exuded a charm that seemed to flow naturally, as if he effortlessly wove joy into the air around him, making smiles bloom without a single word. His laughter resonated through the space, a rich and inviting sound that enveloped me in a comforting embrace. In that moment of embrace, I felt a weight lift, as if for the first time in ages as I could finally lower my defenses and breathe freely, Ezra began to appear with increasing frequency. Initially, what began as a simple dinner or a drink on the back porch soon transformed into something more profound. He remained in the living room, lingering well into the night, long after Kai had retreated to his room. Then, on a night destined to change everything, he decided to remain, breaking the silence that had long surrounded him. I made no attempt to keep it hidden from Kai. Was never part of our pact, was it? Yet, I couldn't dispel the lingering, haunting expression that swept across his face the next morning when he found Ezra at the kitchen table, leisurely sipping, when a caregiver transforms into a reliable mentor, coffee, as if he had always been a part of that scene. A quiet storm simmered just beneath the surface, and I could feel it in my son. Tension coiled in his jaw, his fingers gripping the plate with an intensity that spoke volumes, betraying the turmoil he endeavored to hide lingered beneath the surface. Kai chose to remain silent, hovered at the edge, a quiet specter contemplating, and, as the weeks unfolded, Ezra's presence in our home became increasingly pronounced. His silence transformed into a palpable tension that crackled in the air, and he began to lash out at me over the tiniest of concerns, overlooked tasks, mismatched hosiery, and minor irritations that appeared to swell and grow, taking on a life of their own. I tried to dismiss it, convincing myself it was merely an approach to adjustment, yet beneath the surface, I felt the simmering resentment growing between us, thick and suffocating, reminiscent of a storm ready to break its silence one twilight. As laughter wove its way between Ezra and me on the couch, the door creaked open, and Kai stepped into the room. His presence shifted the air, laden with an unspoken tension. He remained silent at first, simply standing there, his gaze fixed. His gaze held an enigmatic expression, a subtle play of emotions across his features that left me feeling unsettled as I raised my eyes to meet his. His eyes were a revelation, a torrent of pain, fury, and turmoil that had long been hidden beneath the surface, simmering just below the surface for weeks. Just as I opened my mouth to respond, he interrupted me with his words. Her voice quivered, a low murmur that sent shivers down the spine. "Do you still feel anything at all?" His words sliced through the silence. The air was sharp and unforgiving as Ezra's gaze met mine, a flicker of surprise passing between us. His features crossed with intrigue, yet my gaze remained fixed on Kai. What are you saying?" I inquired, my voice unwavering despite the frantic pounding of my heart. He advanced cautiously, his fists clenched and quivering at his sides, while you stayed still, unmoved by my suffering, by our bond, by the marks this path has inscribed upon my soul. The room descended into an eerie hush, a palpable tension lingering in the air. Air hung thick around us, as even Ezra stood motionless, his breath trapped in his throat. I rose to my feet, heart racing, my gaze fixed intently, fixated on Kai's expression, yearning for a glimmer of comprehension. "Kai, that's not true," I whispered, my voice barely breaking the silence. "Without a doubt, my feelings for you run deep. Is this truly for me?" He fired back, his voice escalating with intensity. "What does any of this mean? What does this mean for me? You permitted this man to enter our realm as if he were meant to be here, without a hint of concern. In this world, you sit there, sharing laughter with him, while I linger like a mere shadow in the room." The air was suddenly. His words tore through my lungs, crashing into me with an unexpected force. "Kai." His integrity spoke volumes beyond mere words. I reached out with my hand, but he flinched, slipping away from my grasp. Just as our fingers were about to touch, I found myself saying, "I had no idea you felt this way," murmured, a blend of surprise and curiosity washing over me. "Of course you didn't," he spat, his voice thick with bitterness. "You're so focused on what? Do you truly fail to see how this impacts us? Is my presence even acknowledged by you anymore, or have I simply faded into the background? Is this a convenience for you?" The silence that enveloped the room was suffocating, a heavy shroud pressing down on everyone. Soul present, Ezra shifted uneasily on the couch, his words barely a whisper as he mentioned the need for space before he quietly slipped out the door, leaving a palpable tension in his wake that I barely registered. There he stood, my son, a delicate silhouette trembling with feelings I had neglected for far too long. After Kai stormed off to his room, I found myself alone in the living room. In the room, my gaze was fixed on the empty coffee cup that Ezra had carelessly abandoned. His words echoed relentlessly in my mind. In my mind, each repetition cut deeper than the last. He was right. I hadn't genuinely considered him, not in the way that held significance. In my efforts to maintain harmony, I had been merely feigning this reality. Seemed ordinary when it unmistakably was not. In my fixation, I neglected to take into account the toll it was taking on him for the first time in ages. The weight of my decisions bore down on me, the pact I had made. Crafted alongside Kai, we traversed boundaries that were never meant to be crossed. None of it felt right, as if things had. We had crossed a line. This was no longer merely our personal battle. Our choices were inflicting genuine harm that night. Sprawled across an infinite realm of alertness, he remained there, gaze locked on. The door stood ajar, a tempest of thoughts swirling in his mind. Was there still a chance to mend what was broken, or had the moment slipped away forever? Slipped away forever. The morning light crept through the windows, yet the silence that enveloped the house was heavy and oppressive, a sharp juxtaposition to the tempest of feelings that had erupted mere hours before Kai lingered in his room. The door shut tight, the atmosphere thick with unvoiced tension. I sat at the kitchen table, my gaze fixed on the. Before me sits a cup of coffee, steam rising in delicate tendrils, enveloping my thoughts in the thick haze of uncertainty. The pull became irresistible. An urgent wave surged within me, compelling me to take action. And swiftly, whatever this was, whatever we had contorted our relationship into, it could not persist along this trajectory, not any longer. Neither for him nor for me. As the sun sank lower in the sky, I made my way to his door and rapped my knuckles against the wood. Anticipation thrummed in my veins, while silence hung in the air, thick and heavy, as I leaned my forehead against the cool surface. Anticipation coursed through me as I approached the wooden frame. Kai, please, I need to talk to you, I whispered, my voice barely breaking the silence. At last, the door groaned open. The strength of secure environments within families, illuminating him in the muted glow, his demeanor a stronghold, gaze cloaked in shadows. The burden of exhaustion lingered in the air. I'm sorry, I murmured, my voice barely escaping my lips, trembling with feeling for everything that has unfolded, for the ignorance of the hurt I've inflicted upon you, for permitting the darkness. In that moment, as I stretched this far, the truth dawned upon me. I had been mistaken about him. His expression was unwavering as he stepped aside, allowing me to enter the realm of the unknown. I settled on the edge of his bed. The air hung heavy with tension as he leaned against the wall, his arms crossed tightly over his chest, a palpable sense of desperation radiating from him. Gripped my throat as I finally admitted we needed assistance. We were in this together, burdened by the weight of uncertainty. Weighs heavily upon me, and the facade of confidence slips away. We find ourselves at a crossroads, and I am resolute in my determination to prevent us from faltering. Wander further into the unknown. I stumbled through a labyrinth of my own making, each misstep echoing in the shadows linger, yet a flicker of hope persists within me, urging me to repair what I have shattered. If only you would bestow upon me the chance. Kai remained silent at first, his head slightly bowed, eyes locked onto the ground as if it held the weight of his unspoken thoughts. A few days later, we discovered his thoughts. We found ourselves in a small office, seated across from Darian Wells, a family therapist I had unearthed in the far reaches of the internet. Kale exuded a quiet strength. His presence was a soothing balm that enveloped you like a warm blanket. The stillness of the company enveloped me, a haven where the absence of words became a comforting embrace. Yet comfort lingered in the air. In the beginning, neither of us could see it. We lingered in silence, the weight of a story weighs upon us, too deep to express, yet Kale held a rare talent for breaking that silence, posing inquiries that seemed less like disruptions and more like. With each passing moment, beckoning calls echoed, as Kai began to unveil the profound depths of his soul. He spoke of an aching loneliness that ran deep, that had surrounded him since the divorce, the tumult and uncertainty that clung to our arrangement, and the underlying tension. Resentment had taken root within him. I sat there, tears cascading down my cheeks as his voice wove together the emotions I had concealed deep within, feelings I could no longer suppress. In the weeks that followed, therapy wove itself into the very fabric of our daily lives, and the journey was fraught with challenges. There were days when we emerged from the office, utterly drained, as if we had stepped into an unending loop. Those were the days when uncertainty slinked in, murmuring whether we were genuinely progressing or simply floating aimlessly in a vast sea of uncertainty. Kale led us in defining boundaries, authentic boundaries that would hold steadfast this time. I confronted Kai, declaring that our pact had reached its conclusion, that it had been a grave mistake, and that the moment had come for us to part ways. As he embarked on a new journey, he found himself wrestling with the overwhelming. Amidst the changes surrounding him, there were moments when I caught sight of him retreating into old habits, his frustration palpable. A moment that united us, rather than divided us. Rising up, taking shape as fury or sorrow, all while under Kale's vigilant gaze. A journey of self-discovery through journaling, a pursuit I never imagined he would embrace. He also stepped into the realm of martial arts, where he discovered a formidable channel for the chaos of his. Emotions swelled within me as I observed his transformation unfold before my eyes. He straightened his posture, his voice resonating with newfound assurance as he ventured beyond the confines of home, forging bonds that no longer depended on my presence. The most formidable challenge resided in facing my own reflection. In the dimly lit room, I found myself truly confronting the depths of who I was, as therapy unfolded, a crucible urging me to confront the lingering shadows of the choices I had made with each passing session, unraveled the threads of my fears and insecurities, exposing how they had intricately intertwined with the very essence of my connection with Kai as I fervently sought to hold onto him, hoping to heal the deep scar left by the divorce. Etched into my heart, I overlooked how it was gradually suffocating the essence of us both, liberating the firm hold on control, welcoming the unpredictability of relying on his capacity to stand solitary emerged as one of the most challenging battles I have ever faced unfolded as the sun began its descent, casting a warm glow across the sky as Kai and I found ourselves on the porch, the air heavy with the weight of unspoken thoughts. It had been months since our first therapy session, and the evening was steeped in a palpable sense of anticipation, as if the waning light was on the brink of revealing something deeply significant. He directed his gaze toward me, his eyes brimming with gratitude as he whispered, "Thanks, Mom, for everything." It may have appeared trivial, yet it carried an undeniable weight of significance. Extended my hand and gently clasped his, a simple gesture that echoed profoundly, expressing feelings that words could not capture. The journey of discovery remains uncharted, each step unveiling new mysteries waiting to be unraveled. Healing is a continuous process, a winding journey, rich with unexpected twists and turns, where chaos swirls all around. Tangled and intricate, each setback casts a shadow that lurks in the corners of the journey. For the first time in what feels as if an eternity has passed, a flicker of hope ignites within me. Kai is navigating. His path intertwines with mine, and though the shadows of our past mistakes may linger, we are unraveling the path to move forward together. Life reveals itself in the absence of a map, and if such a map ever existed, I probably cast it aside. Long ago, Kai and I encountered challenges that surpassed my most vivid imaginings, yet despite everything, the chances we persist here, unyielding in our efforts and forever onward. Transforming the house imbues it with a fresh essence, a feeling of buoyancy that lingers in the air. The essence of providing support while respecting boundaries. In the stillness of the air, a profound sense of tranquility unfolds as we come to understand that we are journeying towards something far greater. Kai has unearthed his niche in the world, surrounding himself with friends and delving deeper into his own essence. When our paths finally cross, it feels as though we are mere strangers, two souls adrift in the vastness of existence. Souls encountering the new, rather than ensnared in the tumultuous web of a relationship we never fully understood. We continue to share our moments. Healing may not be perfect, yet it represents a journey onward. It has been a profound journey of confronting my own reflection in the shadows of my past led me to uncover the transformative power of forgiveness. Delicate yet freeing power that enabled me to shed the burdensome shackles of guilt that had restrained me for far too long. For a long time, I have come to understand that not all things can be repaired, and sometimes the deepest expression of love is to let go. An opportunity to step back, granting our loved ones the space to chart their own journeys and uncover their truths, their own solutions. The journey has been riddled with obstacles, yet a feeling of, as I contemplate the progress we've made, a sense of pride fills me, not just as a mother and son, each as distinct individuals, embark on a journey to rediscover the fragile yet profound threads of respect and trust that connect them. Once more, from all that I have encountered, one truth emerges, shining brighter than the others: the undeniable significance of genuine boundaries extend beyond simple regulations. They embody deep expressions of love. Authentic care involves honoring the needs of others. They act as a shield for what you cherish, crafting a sanctuary for your most valued treasures. In the pursuit of growth, I unearthed the essence of understanding and the importance of nurturing connections. Throughout the depths of my journey, I came to realize that accountability carries a burden as profound as forgiveness. There are instances when the greatest trial lies in facing the reality of our own mistakes, yet it is also the most liberating for all who can hear me. There is something significant to convey. Your mistakes do not define who you are. Your true essence reveals itself in those fleeting moments that accompany your descent. In the manner you ascend, face those you've hurt, and move forward into the unfamiliar. Evolution is not a quest for perfection, rather, it is a bold expedition into the uncharted, a readiness to welcome transformation even in the face of uncertainty. Fear clutches at your heart, while pain resides in your soul, ever present in the journey of discovery. It appears we are fated to navigate the intricate labyrinth of life without end, such is the essence of our existence. For the first time in years, we find ourselves. As we embark on this journey, we are discovering stability through the power of therapy and the strength of honesty. Together, we are carving out a new path, one that holds the promise of a brighter future. With a sense of optimism, I believe we will progress together, undeterred by the obstacles that lie ahead. Just imagine the instant when all that you hold dear fractures into countless fragments. What actions would you take when your universe collapses around you? Surrounding you, just as it does me, lies a choice of paths. Which will you decide to embark upon next? I invite you to share your reflections in the comments below if this resonates with you. This tale has stirred your emotions. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating stories. Until we meet again in the upcoming video.